Do you know that there were African communities of escaped slaves who resisted oppression and formed independent settlements across the Americas? These fearless warriors and survivors, known as the Maroons, played a crucial role in resisting slavery and European colonial rule. Their stories, often untold in mainstream history, reveal incredible resilience, military prowess, and a determination to maintain their freedom against all odds. The term Maroons comes from the Spanish word cimarrón, meaning wild or untamed. It was used to describe enslaved Africans who escaped from plantations and formed their own communities. The Maroons were found throughout the Caribbean, Central America, South America, and even the southern regions of the United States. They were primarily composed of Africans who had been taken from various regions of West and Central Africa, such as the Akan, Yoruba, Igbo, Congo, and Mandinka peoples. Many of these Africans had been warriors or members of strong, organized societies before their capture. When they found themselves enslaved in the Americas, they carried their military skills, survival tactics, and deep cultural traditions with them. Maroons often fled into dense forests, mountains, and swamps, places where European forces struggled to track them down. They built self-sustaining villages, established governments, and defended their freedom through guerrilla warfare tactics. Over time, some Maroon groups became so powerful that they forced European colonial governments to negotiate peace treaties with them. The Maroon movement was widespread, appearing in different parts of the Americas with unique characteristics based on their environment and the colonial powers they resisted. Jamaica became one of the most well-known centers of Maroon resistance. When the British seized Jamaica from the Spanish in 1655, many enslaved Africans who had been under Spanish rule escaped into the mountainous regions of the island. These early escapees formed the foundation of the Jamaican Maroons, who waged a continuous war against the British for nearly a century. Under the leadership of legendary warriors like Cudjoe, Nanny of the Maroons, Akompong, and Kwao, the Jamaican Maroons became experts in guerrilla warfare. They launched surprise attacks on British plantations, freed enslaved Africans, and ambushed soldiers in the thick forests. The Maroons had a deep understanding of the land, which allowed them to evade capture and establish hidden villages. One of the most revered figures in Maroon history is Queen Nanny of the Maroons, a fearless leader and spiritual guide. Oral traditions describe her as a powerful Obeah woman, a practitioner of African spiritual traditions who could catch bullets with her bare hands and make them disappear. She is said to have guided the Maroons through mystical means, inspiring them to never surrender. By 1739, after failing to defeat the Maroons militarily, the British were forced to sign a treaty, recognizing the Maroons as free people and granting them land. In Suriname, a Dutch colony in South America, Maroons established some of the most successful and long-lasting free African communities in the Western Hemisphere. The rainforests of Suriname provided the perfect refuge for escaped enslaved people who used their deep knowledge of African agricultural techniques, military strategy, and river navigation to thrive. The Maroons of Suriname, particularly the Ndyuka, Saramaka, and Aluku peoples, fought against Dutch plantation owners for decades. They raided plantations, freed other enslaved Africans, and set up their own political structures based on African traditions. Like the Jamaican Maroons, they forced the Dutch to sign peace treaties in the 18th century, officially recognizing their independence. Even today, many Maroon communities in Suriname maintain their African languages, spiritual traditions, and social structures, preserving their rich heritage. Brazil had one of the largest populations of enslaved Africans in the Americas, and naturally, resistance was fierce. The most famous Maroon settlement in Brazil was Palmares, which lasted for nearly a century. Established in the 1600s, Palmares grew into a powerful kingdom with over 30,000 inhabitants, ruled by African kings such as Zumbi dos Palmares. Zumbi, one of the greatest African resistance leaders in history, led Palmares in defending itself against repeated attacks by the Portuguese. The settlement was a beacon of hope, attracting not only escaped Africans, but also indigenous Brazilians and even poor Europeans who sought refuge from colonial oppression. Despite its ultimate destruction in 1695, Palmares became a symbol of black resistance in Brazil, and Zumbi is celebrated as a national hero. The United States. The Great Dismal Swamp Maroons. In the United States, Maroon communities formed in remote areas such as the Great Dismal Swamp, a vast wetland on the border of Virginia and North Carolina. These Maroons lived in secretive communities, avoiding slave catchers and raiding plantations for supplies. Some Maroon groups in the U.S. even assisted the Underground Railroad, helping enslaved Africans escape to freedom in the North. Maroons developed sophisticated methods to maintain their independence, including 1. Guerrilla warfare. Maroons mastered the art of ambush attacks, using their knowledge of the terrain to strike and disappear before European forces could retaliate. 2. Agricultural innovation. They cultivated crops like cassava, plantains, and yams, drawing on African farming techniques. 3. Defensive architecture. Many Maroon villages were built with hidden entrances, spikes, and booby traps to prevent European soldiers from invading. 4. Spiritual resistance. African religions, drumming, and traditional healing practices played a crucial role in maintaining morale and unity among Maroons. 5. Political organization. Some Maroons established leadership systems based on African governance models, with chiefs, councils, and even kings ruling over their territories. European colonial governments struggled to defeat the Maroons. In many cases, they were forced to negotiate peace treaties. However, these agreements were often fragile, and some colonial powers later betrayed the Maroons, attacking their settlements or deporting them. For example, after fighting off the British for decades, some Jamaican Maroons were forcibly exiled to Nova Scotia, Canada, and later to Sierra Leone. Similarly, some Surinamese Maroons faced betrayals despite their treaties. The legacy of the Maroons remains alive in the culture, music, and traditions of African-descended people throughout the Americas. Many Maroon communities still exist, particularly in Jamaica, Suriname, and Brazil. Their impact can be seen in Maroon festivals and celebrations, such as the annual Accompong Maroon Festival in Jamaica, which honors their ancestors. The preservation of African languages, such as Saramaccan in Suriname, and the Creole dialects influenced by African tongues. The inspiration for black resistance movements, from the Haitian Revolution to the Civil Rights Movement. Today, Maroons symbolize defiance, resilience, and the unbreakable spirit of African people. Their ability to carve out free societies in the face of unimaginable oppression remains a powerful testament to black history and resistance. The story of the Maroons is one of courage, ingenuity, and survival. These African warriors refused to accept slavery and instead fought for their freedom, building independent communities across the Americas. Though their history is often overlooked, their impact is undeniable. Did you know about the Maroons before watching this video? What do you think about their incredible resistance? Comment below, subscribe to Black Stories Untold, and let me know where you're watching from. Let's continue uncovering the powerful and hidden histories of African people around the world.